On today's show, visual artist Catherine Eichstead and saxophonist Scott Edwards. Join me as we learn more about these hidden gems of London.
In the forest city, London, London, oh, in the forest city, London, London, whoa.
Welcome to London's Hidden Talent. I'm your host, Jennifer Martino. In London, Ontario, our art and culture scene is thriving thanks to the creative talent of lifelong Londoners and people from around the world who have made this community their home. Together, we will get to know the people who are bringing our stages, galleries, and streets to life. First up, we have visual artist Catherine Eichstead. Catherine has been drawing and painting from childhood and studied at the University of Toronto, majoring in fine art studio. Each summer for the past 12 years, Catherine has studied at the Halliburton School of the Arts with recognized Canadian artists. Catherine has won many awards in Toronto and London. A highlight of the London Artist Studio Tour, Catherine paints with a combination of expressionism and abstraction, drawing on the natural environment and still life for inspiration. Catherine, welcome to London's Hidden Talent. Thank you for coming today.
Well, Jennifer, I am honored and thank you for the opportunity. It's really wonderful to be sitting here with you, chatting. I'm grateful for it.
And it's a really big privilege for me as well, because I've seen you in the community with your art quite a bit. I've seen you at Museum London. I know that you're a big part of the London Studio Artist Tour. And also I've seen you through Simple Reflections for Artists at the Museum of London and also at Covent Garden Market. But it's great to have an opportunity to learn a little bit more about you, especially because, as we talked about in the intro, you studied art. And also you have your own studio right here in London that people can check out. So would you mind maybe starting us out with how you came into art, and if that's something that you've always been interested in, or if it's something that you've developed over time?
Well, as a small child, when I was given any kind of writing utensil or writing implement, you can call it, a pencil, crayons, paper, I was right at it. And I always loved it. I took piano lessons, did a lot of things, but the art thing really seemed to stick. So the idea of earning a living as a visual artist was something that I would have entertained. And I went to U of T and studied it. And then I realized, well, you know what? You got to have a day job. So I had a day job, but I got the credentials and anytime I had a chance to participate in, art groups and that sort of thing, I did. And then I moved to London here. It's going to be 13 years ago, and met some amazing people in different groups of artists here. This town is just full of great talent, and both musical, visual artists, dance. Museum London, as you mentioned, Dario was able to put together just a plethora of wonderful, wonderful talent. So it's always been there. It's always been there. And I was able to study, as you mentioned, in Halliburton School of the Arts, where there's some great Canadian painters that are well known and sell all over the world. And I had a chance to spend time with them, learning from them what it takes, to produce a painting that, well, I feel comfortable about offering to the public and to the world, sort of thing. So yes, it's been there forever. Born with it.
And when you go to learn with and to interact with other artists, do you find that inspiring? And does it make you look at your art in a different way? I've talked to some artists who have gone abroad to study. They've interacted with lots of different artists, and it can kind of go either way for them. They can take that inspiration and make their work even better, or sometimes it can be a little bit intimidating and they can say, I'm not sure that I'll ever reach that level. And then that can hold them back. What has been your experience with being around people who maybe you'd aspired to be like?
Well, every individual has their own set of gifts. And it's a matter of being able to hone them in a way. And so when I would work with an artist, and I continue to do so if I have that opportunity, to work with a wonderful artist that I admire, it's not that I'm trying to reproduce what they do. And I'm, there's so many aspects to being a successful artist that, there's a lot of people here who deserve to be, world renowned, but that isn't the way it works out. So no, I find with every artist that I worked with, I learned something. And not everyone was a joy to work with. Unfortunately, that's reality, right? But I always learned something. I took something away that made me see my work differently and apply a different, I don't know, attitude or skill or just a different way of thinking even to what I was doing. Yeah, for sure. It's an amazing opportunity to work with other artists. And if you go to other places in the world, then you bring something, incredibly unique with you.
And that's exactly why I wanted to host this show, London's Hidden Talent, because like you said, there are incredibly talented people in London of all kinds. They come from all over the world. There are also people who've been here for generations. There are people who've been here also for centuries, thousands of years.
Yes.
And they all bring something different to our community and to our local art scene. And I think we do have a lot to learn from each other. And so often we look outside of our community to see what's up and coming and where really the talented people are. But they're right here in our own backyard. And when you're in a space like the museum and you're surrounded by people who have different forms of artistic expression, and I've seen you paint live in that environment, does that shape your work in any way, or how do you feel in that moment?
Well, I just feel it's such a gift to be given, because when I see the wonderful talent that people bring to what they do, it's inspiring. It's uplifting. You see people from different cultures, the way they do things differently, and you realize there's so many ways to do wonderful things. And hey, that should be freeing. And it seems to work out that way for me. Definitely that inspiration and freedom that I see in others, I can inhale and enjoy myself, Yeah.
And as someone who's actually studied art, which you did go to the University of Toronto
Yeah,
to study
all the
fine
courses.
art.
Yeah.
Took all the courses, you spent years doing that. There are a lot of people who don't have that available to them for many reasons. And like you said, we draw on different inspirations, right? Sometimes they're cultural inspirations. Sometimes it's something that we've been exposed to in our families. What would you say to somebody who has the feeling that they would like to be an artist, but they're not sure that they can commit to formally studying an art program?
That's the beauty of human existence, is that everybody's got gifts. We all come with gifts. And if somebody's interested, then pursue it. You don't know where it's going to lead you. And, you don't necessarily have to have this vast education to be able to. I've seen people who just picked up a brush or a pencil and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm jealous, it's not a matter of, the training is really important, and I learned so much. Ironically, I went to the Halliburton School of the Arts and took basic training in the art of painting, because I didn't get that at U of T. So, it's if you're interested in something, if it gives you joy, then you must pursue it. Don't hold yourself back. And I've met many people and encouraged them, which is, I feel like it's it's a small but big thing, that you can share with somebody. Yeah.
And one of the beautiful places that you share your art with people is in your local studio. Do you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Well, I am so lucky to have a studio that I share with two other fine, wonderful artists. We're at Adelaide, just near Princess, in the Heritage Factory there, and we have this wonderful studio that is. It's got the right lighting. It faces north. These big windows, so we don't get the sun directly in. We get it the way, when you read about the perfect environment to paint, this would be it. And it's spacious and light, and it's a place where if somebody wants to come and see it, just let me know. And I would love to share with a little tour of the place, show my paintings. The London Artist Studio tour, which was just held recently, or a few months ago, it was such a pleasure to meet people who came in. Other artists came. We all like to check out each other's work and learn a little bit. And, general public, the kids came, and, as a grandfather came with his little grandson. I mean, there was just a wide variety of people who came to see it. And it was amazing to share the experience and to share the art, because not everybody paints. So when you see a painting, you think, how did that happen? It's like music for me. I love piano, but my jaw drops when I hear somebody tickle the keys and tickle the ivories, they say. I can't do that. So it's fun to share, different aspects of what I love to do. Mm-hmm.
If somebody were to visit your studio, could you tell us a little bit about the style of art that you do and what they would see there?
Well, I do a lot of landscape. Being part of en plein air group, we're out in the summer and the spring, summer, and early fall, and we paint in all kinds of wonderful locations around London. And so I'm very inspired. The painting behind you is actually up in Ilderton. And so it seems there's a lot of landscape. I don't do photorealism. That's not a style that inspires me. I like to put on a canvas the feeling I get when I'm looking out at something. The beauty, the majesty, and put, I guess, what my feelings are there, and try to, inspire that in the viewer, who will hopefully come and look at it, and see it. And a little abstraction. Sometimes when you're looking out at a scene, you see things can look a little different, and you say, oh, I want to see if I can capture that. So there's that as well. So I do love some abstraction as well.
And some still life.
Still life was a staple at one point, and I did a lot of that. So once in a while, it's great to go back to that. It's just fun to set up a scene and just do it. When I was up at Halliburton, I had this amazing instructor who we'd set up a set in the morning, like as if we were going to have a little theater thing. And then we'd paint that. And then in the afternoon, she would bring in a model who would sit, and we would darken the room, and she would have lights shining on the our model, and we would paint that in after. And we got those are my favorite paintings. I actually haven't put those out in the public because I just love them. So, and we're inspired by different things. So it's a matter of taking all of the experiences you have, what you're seeing with your eyes, and hey, see what happens on a canvas.
I'm so happy that you landed in London, that you're a part of our community.
Me too. Thank you.
And you are filling our community with color, always a lot of life in your paintings, whether it's flowers or landscapes, really
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful blends of color. And it's something that you can look at and just dream. And I'm sure that everyone who's watching can see that in just the piece that you've brought today and the other examples that we've shown today as well. Mm-hmm. And if someone would like to learn more about you or maybe visit your studio, how could they find you?
Well, I'm on Facebook with just my name. You should be able to find me. And otherwise, I have an email address, which I would gladly share. And it is CC, my last name, which is a bit of a mouthful. And it's CCEICHSTEDT @gmail, that's the easy part, .com.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Catherine, and I can't wait to see what comes out of your studio next.
Oh, Jennifer, thank you for this opportunity. It's been a real pleasure. Absolutely.
Next, we have saxophonist Scott Edwards. Scott has been a regular member of several of London's big bands, including the London Jazz Orchestra and Big Bandemic. His first musical inspiration was 1940s and 50s rhythm and blues. Scott studied classical saxophone at Western University, where he was a member of the jazz ensemble for 4 years. His playing experience has encompassed many styles, from classical music to traveling on the road with a rock band. In 2024, Scott was recognized by the Forest City London Music Awards as a fan favorite. Scott, thank you so much for joining us today on London's Hidden Talent. And it is an honor to have you here, not just because you are a lifelong Londoner who's been part of the local jazz scene, big band scene, music scene for decades, but also because you are my great uncle. You're my mom's cousin and my grandma's nephew. And this is a really great opportunity to learn more about you. And I know that our audience will enjoy that just as much as I will. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for asking me on.
And I was fascinated as I was reading your bio. And we have people in our family that we've seen play, or we know a little bit about their talents, but we don't often take the time to get to know more about them. And in reading your bio, I learned that you actually studied saxophone right here in London at the University of Western Ontario. It was named at the time. Could you tell me a little bit about how you came to the saxophone as your instrument?
Originally, I guess we go back to when I was probably in grade 7 at Northridge Public School. And I somehow got a hold of a record called The Atlantic History of Rhythm and Blues, Volume 4. And there were a number of tunes from the late 1950s. And one of them was Charlie Brown by the Coasters with this great saxophone solo. And it just drew me right in. The rest of the album, that in those days in the rhythm and blues scene, saxophone was a necessity almost in the music. And so you'd always hear a chorus or two in the middle of a tune. And it just fascinated me. At the same time, I was getting quite interested in music that was going on during the late 60s, early 70s. My uncle, one of my uncles actually, was the original chief engineer at Chum Radio in Toronto. And one year I got the top 30 as a birthday gift, all 30, 45 records. So I was really, really fascinated by the music end of things. So in grade 7, I got this record. I realized this is the instrument I want to play. I want to play the saxophone. In grade 9 at Lucas, I got a clarinet. I got a clarinet, which is a very nice instrument. Don't get me wrong. But waited till did what I had to do to get through. And then in grade 10, I asked again, and I got the saxophone in grade 10. And played saxophone through till grade 13. When I decided I enjoyed history and I enjoyed English, and I left music behind and went to Huron College for a year. And wasn't satisfied there. Well, it was a great school. I didn't think it was for me. I did well enough to move on, but I took a year off. And at one point said, why not music? So my parents gave me money. I bought a saxophone when I graduated from grade 13 with money they gave me as a graduation present. It sat in the closet for a year and a half. And then I got it out and said, well, let's see what happens. So I went in and auditioned. And they obviously wanted my money. So I did okay. And I got in. And that's how I started at Western in music. And shall I go on?
Well, and the amazing thing is, and I hope this isn't telling tales out of school here, but you are in your 70s now. It's hard to tell just by looking at you. beautiful skin, but in your 70s playing the saxophone right here in London, and you were just nominated for the fantasy band for the Forest City London Music Awards. And that means that the public recognized you as one of their favorite musicians in our community and as somebody that they would want to see play with their other favorite musicians. I was so proud to see you come out in that video. And I'm also proud that I was the one that let you know by posting it on Facebook.
That was a surprise, I'll tell you. That was a very nice surprise. I'm looking going, what is this? What are we talking about? Yeah, I'm so grateful to everyone that voted for me.
Well, and I'm sure that you ended up in that prestigious position and being honored that way because you have been out on London stages, in London streets, playing the saxophone, supporting bands and being a part of groups, from jazz groups to big bands to playing with the Sinatra show as well.
Oh.
And maybe could you tell us a little bit about the different ways that you've been able to use the saxophone to be part of the music community here in London?
Well, playing, there are 4 common sizes of saxophone. And I've been fortunate enough over the years to have collected all 4 of them. Well, not just collected them, but I have played them all in various situations, well, in school, basically at Western. And in high school, I played baritone, the tenor, the alto, and the soprano. And I was fortunate enough to get involved. Well, there have been various bands over the years as I had a regular day job. But the London Jazz Orchestra is a group that I've been with for about 18 years now. And was fortunate for me, I managed to get in the band. The way this band works is once you get in, you're in until you decide that you don't want to play anymore. And they're very good with that. Ralph DeLuca is the leader of the band. And he's very adamant about that you play until you feel that you don't want to or you're not able to play anymore. And I just happened to be in a situation where the baritone sax player decided he was going to move on. And so I was able to fill that chair. And it's a very fine band, and we play at a pretty high level. I guess I will talk about the different bands I'm in. And
Yeah, that would be great.
So that's one big band that I'm in. I'm also in another big band called Big Bandemic that started during the pandemic. We all played online. And once the pandemic situation eased, we were able to rehearse together, and we just stayed together as a band. We were from several different bands before COVID. And I play the tenor saxophone in that, which is kind of my favorite, has been my favorite instrument. When I was at Western, you had to play alto sax. That was what most of the classical music was written for. And so I had that horn and played in various bands at Western on alto. And well, here's back in the day, we were able to get a job, for saxophone players, through a government summer works program. As a sax, get work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week as a sax quartet. So we would write our own arrangements. The first year, there's a teacher from Central that would have been there when you were there, Linda Wharton. She arranged for it, and we got this grant. And so it's soprano. The classical sax quartet is a soprano, an alto, a tenor, and a baritone. So that first year I played alto. Then Linda moved on, and we gained another Western student, and I ended up playing the soprano. So I played soprano for the summer. And once school got back in, we were fortunate enough that there was a program at the Musicians Union. I had been a a member of the Musicians Union since I was in second year university. And there was a program where we could go and provide free music for the public, and the Musicians Union would pay us. And so we went out and did that and made money while we were at school. At seniors, mostly at seniors' homes. So there you go. I guess that's about it. I played in a rock band called Signal. That's another band, and I think we've got a picture that might shakes up some memories for some people. And we used to play at the old Rideout, but that was in the old days. I took a year off school, third year. I took a year off school at Western before my third year, and spent a year doing the bar circuit with this band. I was away basically 300 days of the year, and we went out to Newfoundland and back twice. And that was a real education, I'll have to say. And most of the guys, we were from London and St. Thomas in that band.
And when you talk about the opportunities that you had as a young person, and something that I really appreciate when I see you out in the community is you're always connecting with other musicians. And often I see you gravitating towards young musicians and talking to them. And you always share your enthusiasm for the music, but also really wanting to learn about them. And we were at a family birthday party at Krabby Joe's, and we ran into a group of musicians from the Don Wright School of Music. And you were so excited to see people who are up and coming in the local music scene. If you were to meet somebody who isn't sure about the opportunities they're going to have to be a professional musician, but really has a passion for their instrument or for music in general, what do you like to tell people like that?
Go for it. One of the most exciting things, like you said, for me is I think seeing the potential. You see how good a person is today. They're one of the big pandemic. One of the things that's happening with the big pandemic is we are getting some university kids coming into the band. And they've got to be pretty good players in order to stick with us. And it's just so amazing to see. I'm not going to name any names, but there's certain people that, one of the guys, the baritone sax player, is now on tour with a band. He got picked up by a band, a 6-piece horn section band that went to Europe and is playing around the southern United States. He had to finish his, he's going to have to do it 1 year over because he left in that situation. But it's so exciting to see someone living that life that they thought they would like to try. I mean, that's the big thing is if you have that kind of an urge, give it a shot. You don't necessarily have to do it full time for the rest of your life, but you have it. One thing about music, you get interested in it when you're younger, you'll always have it. And this is where, in my case, I decided not to go full time into music when I was younger. And then 2017, I retired, and all of a sudden people looked at me and said, "Hey, he's retired, he's available." And all of a sudden I'm in a bunch of bands, right? And it's still there. It's an opportunity, and go with it.
Well, if someone would like to see you perform live or would just like some encouragement about exploring their interest in music, I know that you'd be willing to talk to any young person or any person of any age who would like to pursue their talents. We have a bunch of ways that people can get a hold of you and can find you out in the community. And I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me today. I can't wait at the next family reunion or lunchtime that we have together to learn a lot more about your experience of music in our community. And thank you so much.
Well, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you for having me on and letting me give my message out.